In November 2023, I, F27, made the most pivotal decision of my life. I left my husband, M27. At the time I was postpartum, caring for our 4-month-old daughter, and overwhelmed by the state of our relationship. My husband was my best friend, my partner in every sense of the word. We were inseparable, constant companions who spent every ounce of our free time together. He was loyal, dependable, and loving, most of the time. But not all of the time. There were cracks in the foundation of our marriage, cracks I had tried to address over and over again. His temper was unpredictable. Most of the time he was kind and supportive, but when his temper flared, the air in the room shifted. Sometimes he snapped at me, saying things that stung and left an invisible mark. On rare occasions, his anger crossed a line. He never physically hurt me, but he came close enough to scare me. I knew part of his struggle stemmed from his past. He had served 3 tours in Iraq, and the trauma of those years lingered in our home like an uninvited guest. I begged him to seek therapy, to work on the parts of himself that were hurting not just him but us. I wanted him to be the kind of man our daughter could look up to, the kind of husband I deserved. I gave him ultimatums. I threatened divorce. But nothing seemed to change. Finally, I reached my breaking point. I moved out and stayed with a friend, taking our baby with me. Within 2 months, I had my own place and was dating someone new, a coworker who had quickly become my escape from the pain of my marriage. Meanwhile, my husband threw himself into self-improvement. He started therapy, apologized for his mistakes, and begged me for another chance. He asked me to take time apart without dating anyone else so that he could prove his commitment to change. But I refused. You had 3 years to change, I told him. It's too late. Looking back, I realize now how final those words were. I shattered him, a man who once looked at me as though I hung the moon. He didn't stop trying though. He fought for me, for us, even as I moved on. I painted him as abusive to justify my choices. I needed the world to see me as justified in leaving my marriage and jumping into a new relationship so soon. For a while, I thought I had made the right decision. My new relationship felt like a whirlwind, and I convinced myself I had found the happiness I deserved. But it didn't last. By the time the cracks in my new partner's facade began to show, I was already pregnant with his child. I was devastated, trapped in a relationship that was far worse than anything I had endured before. He was cruel in ways my husband never was, manipulative in ways I couldn't have imagined. By the time I left him, I was 33 weeks pregnant and moving in with family to piece my life back together. Now, I share a cramped upstairs space with my 19-month-old daughter, preparing to welcome a newborn into a life that feels like chaos. I'm grateful for my family's support, but I can't escape the overwhelming weight of regret. My ex-husband, the man I once called my best friend, is no longer a part of my life except for brief, formal exchanges when we trade off custody of our daughter. He's changed. I can see it in the way he carries himself, in the calm steadiness he exudes now. He's the man I always wanted him to be, but he's no longer mine. Every time I see him, I'm reminded of the life we built together, the family I threw away in my desperation for something better. I tried to reach out, to apologize, to express my regret and see if there was any chance of reconciliation. But he's made it clear he's done. He won't engage with me beyond what's necessary for our daughter's sake. I've never seen him so resolute. It's like the love we shared, the bond that once felt unbreakable, is a distant memory for him now. I'm drowning in the consequences of my choices. Financially, I'm stretched thin. My ex and I split custody equally, so there's no child support or alimony. My ex-boyfriend has made it clear he wants nothing to do with our unborn son, leaving me to shoulder the responsibility alone. I've even considered giving up custody of my daughter to her father, thinking it might be the only way to be a better mother for my son. But the thought of signing away my parental rights and never seeing her again breaks me in ways I can't put into words. Every night, when the house is quiet and my daughter is asleep, I replay the last year and a half in my mind. I think of the moment I told my husband I was leaving, the pain in his eyes as he begged me to stay. I think of the times he held me when I cried, The way he would make me laugh even on my darkest days. I think of the man he's become and wonder what could have been if I had just waited a little longer, been a little more patient, given him the time he needed to heal. Now, I'm left to pick up the pieces of a life I shattered with my own hands. I'm trying to move forward, to be strong for my children, to find hope in a future that feels uncertain and daunting. But the weight of my choices is heavy, and the regret is overwhelming. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe my ex-husband will eventually forgive me, or maybe he'll move on and find happiness with someone else. All I know is that I miss him, the man I loved, the man who loved me back. And I can't shake the feeling that leaving him was the biggest mistake of my life.